Mom is the heroine of a pampered wife's story. I am the child that dads want only to make mom completely submit. The first time I saw mom, she was being fed medicine while held in the arms of Dad James. Her cheeks were slightly flushed and there were tears. The last time I saw mom, she was as thin as a skeleton, walking up step by step from the basement, leaving a bloody print with each step. Emma, run quickly. They are going to cultivate the next pampered wife. I supported mom with one hand and skillfully swung open a butterfly knife with the other. Mom, don't be afraid. They are going to hell. When I was born in a deformed family, I have 3 dads. Each dad loves my mom very much. They call mom baby and dress mom in princess dresses. There are more than 30 servants in the family who take care of mom's daily life respectively. Mom's jewelry can buy a city. Everyone thinks mom has a good life and says that mom is the happiest woman in the world. But no one loves me. Not even a single servant will look at me directly, in order not to harm mom's body. Dads didn't originally want her to have a child. But somehow someone went a bit too far. Mom had an unexpected pregnancy. Dad James was furious. He immediately wanted mom to have an abortion surgery to get rid of me. Mom didn't agree and held a table knife against her heart. If you don't let me keep this child, then I will die too. The dads were extremely anxious and ran around in circles. It was Dad Ethan who said with a half smile, "If this child is kept, baby will be more obedient. She will cooperate with things she didn't like before." The beast-like eyes of the 3 men lit up and they instantly reached a consensus. They didn't want this life. Nor did they fear mom's threat of death. They wanted to taste the taste of a pregnant woman. Before I was 5 years old, I had an Annie who was very kind to me. She would pick me up from kindergarten. She would stay awake all night when I had a fever. She would cover my ears when Dad said some strange things and hold me with heartache and shed tears. The day before she disappeared, I once carefully asked her, "Can I call you Mom?" She was stunned for a moment and then looked at me gently. There was a depth in her eyes that I couldn't understand. "Miss, I am not your mom." The next day, Dad fired her. The most important person in my life suddenly disappeared without even saying goodbye. It was a long time before I knew the reason. That day, Mom heard what I said. She didn't tell anyone but secretly cried for a long time. She had a special constitution and couldn't control her tears. When dads found out about her sadness, they checked the surveillance cameras of the entire manor. They found the reason and solved the problem. From then on, no servant in the family would take the initiative to approach me. Their tasks were, in addition to not letting me die, not to do anything other than keeping me alive. Getting close to others would make Mom sad. So I could only be alone. 3 months later, I saw Mom. That was the first time I saw her since I had memory. The little me was so shocked that I couldn't say a word. I was shocked that my mom was so beautiful. Beautiful like a fairy in the sky. Every strand of her hair was breathtakingly beautiful. I was shocked that she was being held in the arms of Dad James. Her eyes were blurred and she was curled up drinking medicine like a little child. At that time, I still didn't understand the embarrassment of this scene, but I felt uncomfortable for some reason. Even after the servants hinted several times, I couldn't open my mouth to call Mom. Until Mom's expression gradually became clear. She opened her mouth wide and looked at me in great surprise and exclaimed, "Emma?" Her face instantly turned red. She hurriedly covered her clothes and pushed away Dad James. As soon as Mom's feet touched the ground, tears fell from her eyes. "My child. Emma." She gently stroked my hair with slightly trembling hands. The whole person seemed to be trapped in endless depression and pain. Dad James walked over calmly. He gentlemanly helped Mom up. "Okay. Now that you've seen the child, don't be temperamental anymore." Mom's crystal clear tears were still hanging on her face. She somewhat numbly turned her eyes away from me. I heard her say slowly, "Seeing Emma makes me unconsciously sad. James, can you send her to a boarding school?" Dad James held her in his arms and said dootingly, "Okay. I'll listen to you. My good baby." Before being taken away by the servant, With permission from her mother. She came over and hugged me. Her scalding tears fell into my collar. I heard her say very softly, "Emma, I'm sorry." Mom's smell was very complex. It was a very pleasant fragrance with a hint of fishy smell. I remembered the smell for a very long time. 3. On the first day of elementary school. I saw a familiar back. That back was extremely like Aunt Nanny Zhao. I was stunned for a second, and quickly ran out. I didn't dare to call her mom. I just shouted hoarsely, "Aunt Zhao. Don't go. Please. Aunt Zhao. Don't abandon me." But I was too small. I couldn't catch up with anyone. I was picked up by the bodyguard like picking up a bird and watched helplessly as that back disappeared. I knew that in this life, I would never see Aunt Zhao again. Some people live for a long time, and only become numb when they finally realize that their lives are full of bad things. But since I knew that there would never be good things in my life, I have been numb. I went to junior high school like a puppet. My desk mate is Jun Jun. She is a very sunny and lovely little girl. Jun Jun would secretly bring me her favorite snacks. She said I was too thin, and needed to eat more delicious things. She would draw on my exercise book. Draw mountains. Draw waters. Draw a white bearded sun. She likes to read novels. There are many stories of overbearing presidents forbidding love hidden in her desk hole. Emma, the heroine in the book, is so happy. There are so many handsome boys who like her. Look, the heroine's body is special. At 40 years old, her skin is still as tender as a baby's. Wow. They fought for her. Adults make choices. I am a junior high school student. I choose all of them. I, who didn't have any emotions towards the outside world, suddenly shivered. I remembered Mom's swollen eyes. Suddenly, I forcefully snatched Jun Jun's novel and tore it up crazily. This will harm you. This novel will harm you. It will harm your daughter and your whole life. My crazy appearance scared Jun Jun to cry. She sat on the chair and shouted that she would never play with me again. And I looked at the mess on the ground and slowly suppressed the uneasiness in my heart. I turned Jun Jun's head and looked at her viciously. Don't be a pampered wife. Don't be a dependent of men. Don't be locked in a cage. Don't be a pampered wife. Don't be a dependent of men. Don't be locked in a cage. I repeated over and over again like an emotionless robot. Until several teachers ran in and pulled me away. Jun Jun looked at me with frightened eyes. I will never forget that day. I lost my only good friend. For on the day Jun Jun transferred schools, I was brought home by the driver. All 3 dads were there. Mom was also dressed up like a goddess. Dad Ethan was holding Mom's waist and smiling wickedly. Emma is 12 years old. She is a big girl. Mom stood up abruptly. She took 2 steps towards me in a panic and then stopped. Emma, don't fight with classmates next time. This time it's okay. But next time Mom will punish you. As soon as she panicked, there was a glimmer in her eyes that was about to fall but not falling. Only then did I notice that today's Mom was wearing a high-collared long-sleeved dress rarely. On the neck that was accidentally exposed, there was a very shallow strangulation mark. I looked up and looked at her directly for the first time. Mom, did you also read many pampered wife novels and forced love novels when you were young? All these years, you have never gone out alone. Even every meal is arranged by dads. Do you like? I didn't say the rest of the words. Dad James walked over angrily, covered my mouth, and held me under his arm. Alexander, Emma is starting to be rebellious. You are responsible for teaching her. That day, I heard Mom scream for the first time. She ran towards me out of control and was firmly suppressed by the man. In my peripheral vision, there was a strong hatred in her eyes that were usually like stagnant water. I watched her kick and bite with all her strength. Finally, she was stripped naked by Ethan and pressed on the sofa. I heard his deliberately raised voice. Baby, you are not obedient. You also need to be disciplined. Mom's body was full of scars. On her wrists, neck, and thighs. They were all pink marks that hadn't to disappear. Fear and numbness intertwined and climbed up little by little. I didn't struggle. My head and hands hung down naturally. Like a dead person. I was taken upstairs by Alexander. I thought strangely that the word crane is clean and broad. Giving him such a name is really disgusting. Fave Alexander is the most gloomy and strange among the three men. He likes to watch Mom's pride crumble inch by inch in his palm. He likes to use all kinds of torture to make Mom cry. He likes to see a strong woman become obedient and docile, and conform to his shape under his discipline. I was thrown on the big bed. He stood at the head of the bed and looked at me menacingly. Emma. I remember you were very obedient when you were little. I slowly got up and looked at him with a look full of contempt and disdain. Stop talking nonsense. You haven't seen me when I was little. He didn't speak. He just opened the drawer and carefully selected things inside. Dad. After punishing me. Can you give me some money? My classmates all have money to buy things they like. I don't have any. Alexander turned around. The corner of his mouth pulled up in a smile that he thought was charming. So, Emma is hoping for attention? In the eyes of men, the most easily understood forms of women are beauty, innocence, purity, vanity, weakness. They are more willing to find the one most beneficial to them from countless descriptive words. For example, rebelliousness and loneliness. I also smiled, curving my mouth in the same way as his, and slowly stretching out my hands. 6 after Alexander walked out of the room. He put a black card on the head of the bed. I quietly waited for the servants to come in. They looked at me with eyes mixed with contempt and disgust, as if I had done something heinous. Or they are also tools carefully selected to cultivate my introverted and loveless personality. I wiped away the tears on my face and laughed at myself. I was too obedient. My obedience and indifference made Alexander almost uninterested. He left without doing anything. After getting Alexander's feedback, in the following days, their attention will not be on me. I went to several banks to withdraw money, all in cash. At night, I shaved off my long hair that I had always kept and then wrapped my body tightly with cloth strips. I went to the largest underground illegal boxing casino in the city. On the noisy and bloody arena stood one desperate outlaw after another. I narrowed my eyes and observed them carefully, until the appearance of a person made my blood boil instantly. It was a girl. She was not tall but rather petite. Her whole body was a healthy wheat color. But she was fierce. Almost every time she struck, it was at the opponent's fatal spot. I watched fascinated lie at the scars one after another on her exposed arm and smiled. The girl is called Harper. She has a crew cut. The palms and backs of her hands are covered with thick calluses. She took the money I handed over without hesitation and said, "Okay, young lady, train as you say." I said word by word, "Just leave me one breath. If I die, you won't get the rest of the money. If I survive here but die at the hands of my enemy, you still won't get the rest of the money." Only then did she raise her head and look at me seriously. "It depends on how much hardship you can endure." 7 The 3 men were very satisfied with my behavior of not studying well all day, smoking, drinking, shaving my hair, and sleeping in class. The teacher managed twice and simply shut up and moved me to the last row. Every night, Harper would take me to various underground boxing arenas. Some opponents were bought by her, and some opponents were carefully selected by her. She always straddled the motorcycle and said coldly, "Go. Don't die." Once, I had 3 ribs broken. I was dizzy and had tinnitus. She also looked at me infuriately and then dragged me into a black clinic. I don't know if I was really lucky or inherited my mother's ability to recover quickly. No matter how badly I was beaten, I didn't die. Lying on the dark operating table, I smiled at Harper. "I don't need to rent and kilometers tomorrow." She looked at me with a complicated expression. There was layer upon layer of confusion in her eyes. "Young lady, what kind of grudge do you have?" I said. "The grudge of being deprived of the right to be a human being soon." Harper is 22 this year. She has a comatose younger sister lying in bed. We were left behind children and no one took care of us. The village chief came several times to persuade my grandpa to let us go to school. Otherwise, he would remove our family from a list of poor households. My grandma is a fool and can't even take care of herself. If she can't cook the dishes well, she will be beaten by my grandpa. Beaten with a belt. When I was a child, my nightmares were always about that small dark room and my grandma being whipped with a belt. Later, this nightmare became the shadow of my grandpa pushing the door and coming in at night. She pretended to be carefree and tilted her head. My younger sister was beaten into a coma to protect me. So, young lady, live a few more years. The money from you is the easiest to earn. From that day on, she no longer simply let me compete. Instead, she would seriously teach me some experience. Women are naturally weaker than men in strength. So remember, using strength is the last choice. When barehanded, think about the eyes, nose, and lower body. When holding a knife, look for the artery. If you can't remove the opponent's strength in the first moment, then in the subsequent fight, you are destined to be at a disadvantage. I nodded. I know. I only have one chance. As long as I fail, they will definitely discipline me into the weakest and harmless form by various means. I will never be able to turn the tables. After I became an adult, I had more and more characteristics similar to my mother. For example, my body is very sensitive. Under the same intensity, the pain I feel is 5 times that of others. For example, my recovery ability is astonishingly beyond science. No matter how much I am exposed to the sun, my skin will return to fair and tender in about a week. No matter how badly I am beaten, most of my injuries will heal the next day. For example, my facial features are more and more like my mother's. So beautiful that Harper finds it incredible. I expressionlessly wrapped a chest binder around myself and put on boxing gloves. You may not believe it. My whole world is a pampered wife novel. On my 18th birthday, I saw my arranged fate at school. James brought his son to the university where I was. As a school trustee and a good father, he gave a speech to all the teachers and students on Monday's flag-raising ceremony. The teachers listed the public welfare he had done and told us with infinite admiration about this person's contributions in various fields. At the same time, James, wearing a tie and glasses, said in a proper manner, "Young people are our future and the purest canvas. And learning is the cornerstone for you to create the future. I hope that students can stay true to their original aspirations and always firmly pursue their dreams. James Company will open its doors and wait for the day when you grow up and become talents." Looking at the adoring looks of the teachers and students around me, I laughed until tears came out regardless of my image. For the first time, I knew that my dad James had his own wife, his own son, and was also a philanthropist with a loving wife persona. He said that children are the future and the purest. It's so funny. James's son is called Daniel. He inherited his father's arrogance and insufferable arrogance. He is confident and calm at all times. At the end of his self-introduction, he cast a venomous gaze at me and said with an ambiguous smile, "I believe that in the days to come, I will be very happy." The newly bought butterfly I flay obediently in my hand. With a movement of my wrist, it was swung into various shapes. Daniel stared at me, and I also looked at him with interest. He wanted to know how special the girl who inherited the special constitution tasted. And I wanted to kill him. How could my dad have other children? Daniel's methods were very old-fashioned. He found many people to bully me. They surrounded me and waited condescending for me to be desperate and collapse, so that they could signal their master. But I didn't. I just looked at them and laughed. The harder they hit, the happier I laughed. Until finally, I bit down on someone's nose, biting until my mouth was full of blood. And I was still laughing. They were frightened by me. They hurriedly dragged the injured girl out and pointed at me and shouted that I was crazy. I casually picked up the clothes on the ground and then dipped them in blood and drew a big smiling face on my face. It was at this time that Daniel came over. He leaned against the wall behind the toilet and lit a cigarette. "You are more interesting than I imagined." Smoke rings were spit out from his mouth. I slowly walked over and slapped his cigarette out of his mouth. The nail of my little finger left a blood mark on his face. "The school has regulations. No smoking." As I left, I heard Daniel swear several times in a row. He looked at my back in disbelief. After a while, he squeezed out a sentence. "Don't you want to know why you and your mom are so liked by men?" I spat out the blood in my mouth and stopped. "Because you and your mom are in 8 whores to be fucked. Your bodies can help us be healthier and younger. Soon you will also become our toy. At that time, you will cry and beg me." He came over, approached me, and slowly said such words in my ear, in a tone full of contempt and insult. I almost used all my strength to control myself. I didn't even feel the pain from being bullied just now. Only endless anger rushed to my heart and head. Looking at me, Daniel laughed to himself. "Isn't it good to be a canary of our upper class? Go back and ask your mom if she enjoys it. You don't have to worry about food and drink. Luxury bags can be bought casually. As long as you like any jewelry of any quality, I can directly buy it for you. You will live a life that many people can't even imagine in their entire lives. Emma, you still haven't suffered. If you, like your mom, are a lower class person who climbed out of the slums, you will know how good we are." A layer of sticky cold sweat rose on my neck and back. My gums were almost bleeding from biting. I now have more than a dozen ways to kill him. I can strangle him with this clothes. I can pull out a knife and stab it into his carotid artery. I can also beat him to death punch by punch. But I can't expose myself at this time. So I squatted down, hugged my knees with both hands, and curled up little by little. Curling up into a weak and pitiful posture. Curling up into a state completely defeated by him. Daniel was finally happy. He stretched out his hand and gently stroked my back. "Don't be afraid. Brother will be good to you and protect you." I really couldn't hold it back. I pushed him away and ran back to the bathroom and vomited. That night, I asked Harper to change an opponent and mercilessly beat that vicious opponent to disability. 10 with Daniel around, I had much less sleeping time during the day. He tirelessly took me to various occasions, and then waited for others to humiliate me. He would come forward to defend me. Sarcasm, ridicule, forcing me to drink, smearing cake, and asking me to polish shoes. Such scenes were frequently staged. Daniel beautified it as a test of obedience. And I took advantage of these opportunities to install miniature bugs on almost every occasion and person. In nearly 3 years, I have made many investments with Alexander's money. If I lose, I ask for more. If I earn, I transfer it. Soon I formed a world-class hacker team on the dark web. Without their notice, I collected the secrets of half of the city's wealthy families. The surveillance cameras in the villa were the first place to be hacked. It took me several weeks to finally summon up the courage to watch all the cruel abuse that happened to my mom. They talked about mom freely, saying about mom's former softness and current indifference. If it weren't for her special constitution, she wouldn't be as good as that young model we found last time. Ethan put one hand on the back of the sofa and shook a glass of red wine in the other hand. "How is Daniel doing in disciplining Emma? When she gets older, she still needs to be sent for an examination. If her physical fitness is the same as her mother's, then we will have a new toy." James had just put on his clothes and lazily tied a knot in his tie. "What can a child know? Wait for a while longer. We will handle it personally." "What about this one?" James Tutdian said casually. "For Emma. She is getting more and more disobedient. She almost killed Alexander last time. If she knows that we are going to touch Emma, I'm afraid she will go crazy. At that time, deal with it in advance." Ethan took a sip of wine. "At the beginning, we spent a lot of effort to make her submit. It's a pity. The tough one back then was more fun. Now, when I exited the video, someone from the team sent me an encrypted message. Boss. James will hold a party on Island C at the beginning of next month. They have found many people. Your name is on the list. Your mother has also been found. She is in the basement of the villa. There is no surveillance there. I replied. Got it. Replace the school's surveillance with the prepared footage. After receiving the reply that the plan was proceeding smoothly, I trembled and smashed the computer in front of me. Then, in front of the whole class, I piled up books and clothes and burned them. The harsh sound of the fire alarm rang. Everyone looked at me like looking at a crazy person. After confirming that the computer chip was completely burned out, I calmly picked up a chair. The teachers and classmates had all run out. Only Daniel, who was watching the excitement, was left. He frowned and looked at me. Emma, don't make trouble. My bodyguards are downstairs. If you keep making trouble, Dad will punish you. At that time, I can't protect you either. He didn't get a reply. Only a heavy blow from me swinging a chair and hitting him in the face. When I knocked out Daniel's cigarette last time, I had collected his blood. This person who has a direct blood relationship with me is my half-brother. If I beat you to death, I will be James' only legal heir. Daniel's head was full of blood. The originally arrogant eyes were full of fear. He must be very confused. In the morning, the person who endured everything and ran errands and delivered food for him suddenly became so violent. Emma. He didn't finish speaking. I picked up the chair and hit him one after another. At first, it was his hands and feet. Then I hit the middle. And finally I hit his head. At first, he could still scream and curse and threaten that I was doomed. But later, he couldn't even say words of begging for mercy. He could only spit blood with his mouth open. When Daniel's bodyguards ran up, I had already dealt with the fingerprints on my clothes and the chair. I hugged my knees and hid in the corner. The bodyguards were stunned when they saw me who could only cry and the blood on the ground. Where is the young master? I pointed out the window and cried even more pitifully. My brother was taken away. 11 an hour later, I was brought back to the villa again. Mom didn't appear. Only James and a group of people in uniforms were walking back and forth. I obediently started repeating what happened at that time for the fourth time. It was my brother who asked me to burn the computer. He said that if I didn't do as he said, he would punish me. Speaking of this, I lowered my head a bit embarrassed. 2 tears fell from my eyes. But as soon as I burned something, a group of people broke in and took my brother away. They left by helicopter. I was very scared. I didn't hear what they said either. Then, I started screaming. I hid in the corner of the sofa in fear and threw out everything I could see. Don't come over. You are not my brother. Don't come over. There was a professional medical team in the villa. Under James' instruction, they diagnosed me repeatedly. Mrs. Psychological state is more fragile than ordinary people. This time, being stimulated may affect her future life. James was extremely angry. He picked up a vase casually and threw it out. Whether it's taking medicine, getting an injection, or using an instrument, stabilize her mental state for me. I want to know where Daniel is. Looking at James' furious appearance, I felt very happy. Since I was a child, he has always been in a dominating posture. It seems that everyone and everything is in his control. Always calm and always superior. Dad, you look so good when you are out of control. No one would think that Daniel is in this villa. In my room, when I returned to my room and opened the cabinet, I could see Daniel tied up inside. I looked at him and said with a smile, "Brother, this is a sedative prescribed by the doctor for me. Do you want an injection too?" Then I pulled out the needle and injected a whole needle into his lower body. Then I closed the cabinet with a smile. "Good night, brother. Sweet dreams." 12 Who on earth is it? James paced frantically in the study, smoking one cigarette after another, and pouring himself wine anxiously. It could be Ethan's family or Alexander's family. Everyone in the business field is possible. Only, he couldn't think of me. His daughter, who has been lonely and lacking love since childhood, and seems to be without any threat, and has been scared to the point of being mentally abnormal. For a whole month, James locked himself in the study. Various experts searched everywhere from all over the world. I don't know how many cities were alarmed. But they found nothing. Looking at his high-profile actions, I nodded repeatedly. He is indeed the legitimate son and grandson of the Emma family. He is really precious. At the beginning of the month, James didn't attend the isolated island party. Ethan came to pick me up at the villa wearing a tuxedo, and even thoughtfully brought a bouquet of flowers. I numbly took the roses after being given medicine and obediently got into the car. But Ethan was a bit depressed. He looked at the doctor who was treating me. Xiao I think she is more exciting without taking medicine. The doctor obediently took out a pill from his white coat. Taking this can return to normal. Be careful. Don't go too far. Ethan took the medicine satisfactorily. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Before the sports car started, he looked at me with a smile. Emma, tonight, Dad Ethan will give you an unforgettable birthday. I touched the butterfly knife in my sleeve and nodded obediently. Dad, I also have a gift for you. 13 The location of the party was on a small island in international waters. For such a private matter, Ethan only brought 2 bodyguards. As soon as he got off the golf cart, he took my hand and slowly led me into the banquet hall. There were already many people inside. Sitting in the main seat were even women. They were holding champagne or cigars in their hands and looking at me with great interest. Ethan raised my hand and smiled. Everyone. Our final treasure today. Emma. After a round of applause, Ethan left me where I was. The ground center slowly rose. Many boys and girls about my age were led to the steps. There were probably more than 20 children, wearing beautifully arranged clothes. They looked at the luxurious and shiny device in front of them in fear. There was an angry voice from Harper in the invisible earpiece. Damn it. A group of beasts. Damn it. A strong light shone on us. Like objects in a display case. We were being appraised and priced. After a moment, a gentle female voice came through the microphone. Dear players, our treasure hunt wonderful night will begin in 1 minute. Please choose your own props and prey, and start hunting after the countdown ends. The most precious treasure of our hunt this time was purchased by an ESA pop with 5% of its shares. Due to its special value, please cherish it. Damage will be compensated according to the market value of the group. Then, dear players, have a pleasant hunt. The countdown begins. The urgent sound beeped. On the stage, someone shouted sharply. Run! All the children fled wildly down the stairs like crazy. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A voice came out from the microphone, and my heart at the same time. The game begins. 14 I closed my eyes and activated the function on my contact lenses. Send me the structural diagram of this castle. Soon, a controllable four-dimensional model diagram appeared in front of me. Okay. 15 million for a pair of equipment. It's not a loss. I quickly hid behind a wall in the corridor of the ancient castle according to the map. In a beautiful and strange music, my butterfly knife quickly flipped and changed shapes on my finger. A second later, I said in a low voice, cut off the surveillance. Then I quickly flashed out and bumped face to face with a fat man who had just walked over. Before his exclamation could come out, I covered his mouth with one hand, and with the other hand, I had already inserted the knife into his artery. After about 5 seconds, he stopped struggling and the rope in his hand fell to the ground. He was the first one. While I was dealing with these miscellaneous people in the ancient castle, Harper had already led mercenaries to start clearing the bodyguards on the periphery. Her somewhat indifferent voice came from the earpiece. If I die, help me take care of my sister. I hummed. If I die, rescue my mom. The music gradually reached a climax, while I was hiding in a corner and ready to strike at any time, killing those so-called players. Blood slowly climbed up my body, neck, and eyes. I don't know whether I am more like a demon now or they are. The lights in the ancient castle began to flicker. Some hidden rooms had already heard the crying of children struggling and the disgusting panting of adults. I gritted my teeth. Find me a gun. Harper laughed again. Along with the laughter was the rattling sound of an AK on her side. Don't you use your little knife anymore? I told you a long time ago. Beyond 7 steps. A gun is fast. Within 7 steps. A gun is accurate and fast. Along with 2 thuds. She had quickly changed a row of magazines. To the east underground of the ancient castle is the armory. 15 along the way. I rescued several children as much as possible and told them to hide and not make a sound. Sister, are you a superhero? A little girl asked me like this. Her bright eyes were full of panic and confusion. I pointed in a direction for her, and then put the butterfly knife in her hand. Insert it into the bad guy's eye. You only have 1 chance. Don't be afraid. Your hand must be steady and fast. I dealt with 6 bodyguards in the tunnel and successfully got a shotgun, 2 pistols, and a Gatling gun. There was also a row of grenades hanging. So heavy. I began to be grateful to Harper for making me run with weights every day. This tiredness was not in vain. As soon as I walked out of the armory, I met Ethan and Alexander. The 2 of them should have realized that something was wrong and come down to get guns. I laughed. They were in collapse. Little Emma? Ethan barely recognized me from my clothes that hadn't been stained with blood yet. Then he took 2 steps back. These things are very dangerous. Emma, give them to Dad first. I nodded and took out a pistol and gave 2 shots to each of their kneecaps. As if not realizing that I was so ruthless. The 2 of them started cursing me. Damn it. Emma, you're crazy. Alexander quickly regained consciousness. He dragged his leg and crawled towards me. Emma. I am Dad. Dad will take you out. Dad will protect you. Okay? Looking at his glance towards the armory. I rolled my eyes helplessly. I raised the gun again and aimed it at their foreheads. Crawl west. Whoever crawls slowly, I'll kill. Count down 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Start. Without any nonsense. Alexander took the lead and bit his teeth and turned around. His 2 arms intertwined and kept crawling forward. Ethan was stunned for a moment in front of him, and then also started to crawl. Afraid that Alexander would surpass him. He would occasionally look back and throw things on the ground at him. Looking at their dog-like appearance with a smile. The hatred in my heart did not diminish. When they finally couldn't crawl anymore, I saw the little girl holding the butterfly knife to her chest. She was already dead. Not long ago. There was still blood flowing from her head. Beside her was a pink baseball bat with some disgusting decorations tied to the tail. I squatted down and wiped away a trace of blood on her face with my hand. I haven't asked your name yet. Silly girl. I'm not a superhero. Looking at the knife in her hand, I cursed in my heart. I see you haven't learned it either. Let me teach you. I casually grabbed Alexander's hair and dragged his ugly face over. Look. The throat, nose, and eyes are their most vulnerable places. If you hate their arrogant eyeballs. It's like this. I held the little girl's hand with my other hand. In her hand was that knife. Like this. Slowly insert it. Alexander was screaming. His hands were frantically trying to break my arm. It was a bit painful. So I pulled out the knife from his eye and quickly cut off all his tendons. Perhaps my bloody appearance frightened Ethan. He widened his eyes and even forgot to run away. I slowly approached him. I understand. When you tied Mom to the bed and humiliated her. Was it so enjoyable? It seems that I really have your blood flowing in me. When torturing you. I am so happy. I ignored Harper's voice scolding me as a pervert over there and stabbed a knife into Alexander's lower body. Then I quickly got up and tore a piece of skirt to cover the little girl's eyes. You can't watch this part. 16 Using a gun is much simpler. I walked out of the tunnel holding that Gatling gun and fired a few shots whenever I saw someone. No one can dodge this thing. Good gun. Harper and the mercenaries also dealt with the people outside and came in to join me. See, they can only be strong for a few minutes in front of unarmed children. Looking at Harper's embarrassed appearance, I curled my mouth. It seems that it's a bit difficult outside. Fortunately, I chose the inside. She took a roll of gauze from her companion and quickly wrapped it around her arm. At the same time, she rolled her eyes. More money. 10,000 yuan for one bullet. I nodded. When I kill James, I'll give you a bonus. As agreed, I distributed all the cash and jewels on the island to the mercenaries. The players who came to hunt have all been killed by me. The survivors are 9 children, 3 boys and 6 girls. Harper asked me what to do with this island. I unfastened the grenade on my waist. Blow it up. 17 Mom's story happened 20 years ago. At that time, she was still a little girl who had just come to the city from the countryside. Because she was so beautiful, the men in the village were staring at her all the time. They would say some vulgar words behind her back, find opportunities to touch her, and even tried to trade with her using candy and a piece of inferior cake from the county. Mom didn't give in. She was always vigilant and protected herself. Finally, she put a kitchen knife on her neck to threaten her parents, who wanted to marry her to the village chief's son. She cried and said, "Let me go out to work. No matter how much money I earn, I will send it back home. Please." A lifetime of poverty made Grandpa and Grandma think that the village chief was the most powerful person they could see and also the person who could protect their daughter. They didn't expect Mom to resist so strongly. Mom successfully came to the big city. She found a sales job. Although the basic salary was small, there was a commission. The boss narrowed his eyes and said to her, "The more you work, the more you earn." At that time, she was still delighted with the smoothness of just coming to a strange environment, and didn't see the lewd look in this boss's eyes. Mom said that spreading malicious rumors is the best way to destroy a woman. She didn't do anything but would be labeled as a mistress or a gold digger. She was ostracized and suppressed. She lived in a rental house of less than 5 square meters and ate with tears every day. Until she met James. That dazzling man. It's a very cliché plot. During an outbound training, the boss wanted to pull Mom into the hotel room. When she fled in a panic, she bumped into James. Such a gentlemanly and handsome man exploded like brilliant sunshine in Mom's barren world. Mom lay in my arms. Her emaciated limbs were full of pinholes. Her bare feet were covered in blood. And behind her was a long underground passage leading to her 18 years of darkness. She smiled and told me, "Emma." This time, I succeeded in resisting. I inserted such a big needle into Jane's eye. I finally climbed up. Mom said that at the beginning, she was like a person who fell into a fairy tale. Every day was so dreamy, and every detail was so real. But later she found that fairy tales are the scariest. The white horse prince kisses the princess's corpse awake. The king and the sleeping beauty give birth to 2 children. A young girl will fall in love with a beast in an uninhabited manor. And Night James discovered the genetic secret hidden in her. When the most magnificent and unrealistic dream in Mom's heart came true, she herself became the prey and pet in the situation. "My daughter, I'm sorry. Mom was so scared and lonely. So I selfishly wanted to give birth to you. I thought that since you are his biological daughter, he would be good to you." Mom didn't shed tears this time. All the vitality in her was withering little by little. The eyes that were usually filled with tears were full of endless pain and confusion. Our genes are different from those of normal people. Our telomeres are a little longer than those of ordinary people. So our self-healing ability is faster and even aging is very slow. At first, James racked his brains and only found one way to make himself energetic. So he began to invest in biotech companies and consciously contact world-class pharmaceutical groups. For the benefit, he shared Mom with the heirs of Ethan's name and Alexander's name. They used brainwashing and domestication to turn Mom into an obedient pet. Until a few years ago, they discovered that this telomere can be inherited with a small probability, and can be extracted through blood. So they sold me to the SNA group in exchange for the world's top team to continue researching Mom's blood. When it was determined that my constitution was the same as Mom's, they began to drain all the blood from her body regardless of her life. Emma, run quickly. Don't let them find you. Don't become like Mom. This was the last sentence Mom said to me. Her arm quietly fell down. Her eyes were still open, as if she wanted to take a look at the outside world. I exhaled a turbid breath from my chest and then wiped the tears from my face. Mom, don't be afraid. They will all go to hell. I put Mom in Harper's arms and then slowly walked down the stairs. The basement was full of the smell of blood. The bags that originally contained Mom's blood had all burst. Her blood was flowing all over the ground. James suddenly jumped out from behind the door and quickly inserted the needle into my eye. At the last moment, I grabbed his wrist with one hand and made his action of stabbing me come to a sudden halt. I was afraid that there would be a segment where I had to compete with men in strength. You don't know. During training, she didn't treat me as a human being. On my thin arm. As soon as I exerted force, the strong muscles below could be clearly seen. I twisted his wrist in the opposite direction and dragged him up the stairs hard. Aren't you always looking for where your son is? I'll take you to see him. James went crazy when he saw his son lying in the closet full of activated carbon. He cried and laughed. His left eye had been blinded. Now one side was flowing with tears and the other side was flowing with blood. It was very funny. I pressed his head. When I was sent to the island, my brother wasn't dead yet. I think he was thinking all the time, when will Dad find me? After all, I am now in the villa. I am right above his head. Will Dad come to his sister's room? When will Dad come to his sister's room? It's a pity. Not only does Dad not come back, but even the servants won't come to this room. Looking at Daniel's tragic state before he died in the closet, I laughed with pleasure. Dad, now transfer all the shares under your name to me. I'll let your wife go. Okay? I took out my phone and opened a file. Look. Your wife is pregnant again. It's a boy again. It doesn't matter if you don't agree. Anyway, this villa of ours can't even be detected by satellites. Dad, I will always be with you. 18 James still transferred all his property under his name to me. He was too weak. He didn't use up 5 of the torture instruments in the basement. I didn't kill him but sent him to the mercenaries I had cooperated with before. After all, he has a blood relationship with me. The treatment must be special. I made Mom's ashes into a diamond pendant. So no matter where I go, I can take her with me. Mom, I am free now. Like the name you gave me. But I still don't know your name. 19 I established a fund called Freedom. And 9 children brought out from the island are the initial team members. Every year, they will fly to various corners of the world. The only purpose is to teach children there how to protect themselves and how not to be deceived. The most powerful one among these children is Xiao Feng. She has practiced boxing with Harper for 3 years and also formed her own team. She specializes in rescuing abducted and captured women and children. She smiled and said, Sister, I also want to become a superhero like you. I also want to suddenly appear when others are desperate and take her away. In Harper's loud laughter, I fled in confusion. Watch less science fiction movies. What superhero? Obviously, I am just a girl.